As I sit and wait in our hotel lobby before we head to the airport and homeward, I'll use my camera clips to guide my narration from this week-long trip my family and I took to New York, seeing the city for the first time. Unlike anywhere I've been before, exploring around our neighborhood and gliding past the faces of hundreds of strangers daily both overwhelmed and excited me. In just a moment's glance, I was tempted to indulge in curiosities about these individuals and what they might be listening to, where they were going, and how long they've been here, visiting or residing in this massive city. We walked through the doors of New York's public library, marveling at the antiquated and ornate details which added history and character to the building. Growing up in California, we just don't have buildings that date back hundreds of years and have stood the test of time. The library boasted a modest yet thoughtful exhibit of historical relics, which showcased a part of the city's history as well as the diverse history of its inhabitants. There is a Quran hand-printed onto a tiny, literal leaflet, and the original Winnie the Pooh characters, which I didn't know belonged to an actual Christopher Robin, whose father wrote the book after. We stopped by Bryant Park and claimed a table for water break and more people watching. Next, and briefly, Times Square, because you have to. We snagged some beers and a pizza for dinner before saying goodnight to the Empire State Building from our window and trying to beat the miniature jet lag. In line with the classics, we went to a nearby bagel shop in the morning. After successfully navigating our first subway trip, we went to the World Trade Center and Battery Park to snag a distant view of the Statue of Liberty. We walked the Brooklyn Bridge amidst the sweltering heat and humidity before taking refuge in a nearby park and then in a Mediterranean restaurant, which is so delicious. As one of New York City's main tourist attractions, I brushed off going to the top of the Empire State Building as probably overcrowded and cheesy. While it was indeed crowded at the top, we made it just in time to see both sunset and dusk, and I was in awe of the view, making sure to take it in from every side of the building, shuffling my way through the crowd. At the moment, I was captivated in the room filled with Monet's water lilies, which looked like a dream and made me feel like I was in one, immersed in his eternal spring garden. I thought this Van Gogh portrait looked like it belongs in a Wes Anderson animated film. I feel so lucky to be able to connect some of these pieces to my own memories and knowledge from art history classes taken during my semester abroad in Spain last fall. One of the most exciting feelings for me is getting to admire a piece of art in real life that you've studied. This time, it was Picasso's Ladies at Avignon. Even though Starry Night was too crowded to ponder, I enjoyed seeing the texture of the painting. Finally, I encountered some of Jackson Pollock's strip paintings, which have inadvertently been familiar to me since childhood, through my love of the book series Olivia. In fact, I did a close read of the illustration, which features Olivia's trip to the museum this year for my English children's literature class. The text accompanying the image reads, "I could do that in about 5 minutes," she says to her mother. What Olivia doesn't understand is that it isn't about the depiction emotions, it's about expressing them. That night we went to a Yankees game, and it was the perfect summer night for it. They played the Orioles, which reminded me of that Seinfeld episode where Elaine refused to take off her Orioles cap at the Yankees game. I wish we got to see more of Central Park. The lush canopy of trees acted as a hideaway and only made it more beautiful in contrast with the concrete skyline. I honestly had no idea what exhibits to expect at the Met, but this place was massive, and I was stunned by how many ancient Egyptian artifacts they held and how well most were preserved. It's surreal to think about what existence in society would be like over 5,000 years ago. My favorite part of this visit was walking through the Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening fashion exhibit. Fashion and clothing design truly is art, and I had so much fun admiring the modern designs in contrast with the old-fashioned pieces most were inspired by. The exhibit really leaned into the influence of different elements of nature on the designs, even showcasing taxidermied bird hats from the 1920s. There was even an immersive element. You could sniff the scent of some aged garments via tubes that were connected to it and ran through the wall. I wouldn't say that they smelled the best, but it definitely wasn't interesting to add an olfactory element to the experience. By the time we were done, we had already spent nearly 3 hours in the museum, so we briefly touched on the Japanese and American sections before leaving. Even though we spent 5 hours at the museum, I couldn't believe there was so much we didn't see. That night we got dinner, followed by Ben & Jerry's and Hell's Kitchen, celebrating my mom and dad's 26th wedding anniversary. We went to see The Great Gatsby on Broadway that night, and I was so impressed by the quality of production performances. It is Broadway after all. The next day, we browsed the Chelsea Market and Pier 57, making sure to grab some rooftop popsicles to fight the heat. On our final morning in New York City, we browsed the Chelsea Flea Market and took a farewell pastry run before heading off to the airport.